Are you taking the bait? Your mind is continually baiting you with stories, with false identifications. Well, depends if you take the bait or not. It so often will tell you things like, you're not good enough, you're not pretty enough, you're not experienced enough, you're not qualified enough. How could you be the one to do that kind of thing? All these different stories that play out in your mind are just bait to see what you choose in your life. See, we have a choice in every moment. Do I want those things to identify me? Do I choose those things to define me in any moment of the day? Because it will judge me, it will shame me, it will tell me I'm small, and continually try and stop me from following my desires, following the things that my heart whispers. It calls me forward. And I have a choice to listen to that whisper within my heart that knows I can do these things. I am good enough. That I am able to do any of the things that I really desire with my heart. I know in the past, I so often had these ideas, so many ideas. And I would then eventually see somebody else had come forward and done the thing months after I had thought of it. And were really successful with it. And I was like, I definitely could have done that. And I would have added these things to it. And it made me realize how I was playing small, how I was letting these stories in my mind bait me and keep me trapped in a reality that was not allowing me to move forward, was not allowing me to expand. And now I look at these things like bait. It's like a choose my own story adventure. Do I choose that? And as I've learnt to do this, and this has been a few years, my whole life changed. The amount of doors and opportunities and things that have come into my life in the last few years has been mind-blowing and way beyond the things that my mind could have thought of, beyond my dreams. I never thought I'd be a best-selling author. I never thought I would do the work that I do today. It was never part of this desire within me when I was young. And eventually my heart whispered about these things, and I felt this energy and this excitement, and then my mind would try and shut it down. So are you allowing the mind to bait you? And are you taking that bait? Or are you going to listen to the heart's whispers and take a chance on yourself? Believe in yourself, or at least allow that this part of you, your soul and your heart that believes in you, is asking you to take a step, a leap forward, to have faith that you can, and you're only going to get better. We all start somewhere, and step by step, we move towards where we're supposed to be. So don't take the bait anymore. Don't allow those things to define you. Ask yourself, without judgment, don't shame them when you hear those stories, because it's part of the human consciousness. It's part of being human, that our mind is going to do that from time to time. It wants to keep you safe, and safety is within the norms of what it recognizes where you are right now. If you want to move beyond that, if you want something bigger and better, you're going to have to push through those limiting things that your mind is going to try and stop you. It's going to try and sabotage, because it doesn't know what to predict. It can't predict an unpredictable future if it hasn't actually lived it before. So you need to choose. Are you willing to take a leap of faith? You're only going to grow. You're only going to expand. You're only going to evolve, even if it doesn't work out exactly how you wanted it to. You are going to evolve and actually become more empowered. You're going to learn new skills. You're going to be able to have new tools, and you're going to actually change your reality. You have to believe in yourself. Your heart believes in you. Your soul never stops believing in you. Now, this integration between the soul and the ego are really important to understand. The ego has got things that it does to try and limit you, to try and fracture you from your soul. And every moment we have a choice. Are we going to be pulled away, or are we going to come in alignment with it? We never lose that aspect to keep going back to that alignment. It's just through another choice. And when we start to merge the humanness with our soul, we become a full spirit, right? We become whole. because we're here to live a human experience, but be connected back to our soul as well, to learn to listen to this heart that speaks true to you, knows what's best for you. The mind will limit that. So we need to get in the driving seat of our heart and start to connect to the soul aspect. And the heart lives in curiosity, it lives in hope, it lives in vulnerability, it lives in forgiveness, it lives in appreciation and gratitude. So when we're not living in that place where we're being curious, so if something, a bait or a story is being ignited, get curious with it, get to know it. Learn to have forgiveness for that part of yourself, or just learn to not identify with it. But if it keeps playing up, ask yourself, what do I need to know? What am I seeking? What is this story serving? Is it serving to keep you safe? Is it serving to keep you small? Is it serving to tell you that you don't feel seen, that you don't feel loved, that you don't feel good enough within? And guess what? You need to go internal and fix those things. It's not something you find external. All of that is within you. Your heart has those answers. It always does. But how do you access the guidance and the wisdom of the heart? Is by connecting back to that part of you. And learning to listen to those whispers. Learning that it doesn't tell you the whole story. It's not going to judge you. It's going to open you up to more wisdom, more compassion, more tools, more growth, more evolution. So your life becomes expansive. You're here to experience life in its wholeness. And that is human. And in human, we have both sides of the spectrum where we're going to feel all emotions. And that's part of being human. But don't judge yourself and hold yourself back because of one moment in time. In this moment, you get to choose what defines you. In the last moment, that moment was defined by whatever you chose in that moment. But you don't need to allow those past stories and that past bait and those things to continue to define you if you don't want to. So often people get caught in looping in stories and allow that to continue to be their identity. Who I am now is so different to who I was 5-6 years ago. Completely different. And who I was yesterday or the day before was different again. Yesterday I had my children. Today they're at their dad's and I'm a single mum and just in my own inspiration, in my own feminine flow. Some days I'm being a healer and working in coaching, which I'm doing somewhat now, but I'm actually with clients and I'm in my mystical powers, right? And I'm showing up in that energy and that's what's defining me in that moment. We are a multifaceted prism of light and energy, which means in this timeline and this dimension, the energy in your light fragments into moments in time. And they all come together to make you whole. But you also get to choose how those fragments show up. What archetype and what character do you play by? I choose by my energy, my vibrance, how it makes me feel, what inspires me, and how to honor myself. The more I can be in connection to me and myself and the relationship with me and hold me, the more my life becomes expansive and responds to that. That inner world mirrors to my outer world. It's not my outer world that dictates my inner world. When I learnt that years ago, everything changed because I used to think my outer world was making me feel the way it is. But when I started to heal parts of my inner world and start to come into alignment with my true self, my emotions, my feelings, my thoughts, my beliefs, all these things, it completely changed my outer world and how I see my outer world. That doesn't mean that sometimes there's not challenges, there's not moments where I actually get triggered by my children or other people. But then I also can choose in that moment, do I want this to continue to define me? What was that moment in time telling me by being curious, by witnessing and reflecting in it, and not actually becoming it again, but just looking at it from that bird's eye view of what was I needing in that moment? What was happening? And so often it's interesting that one of my biggest triggers is not being heard. So it's something that's a resonance in my field, and because I'm a speaker and my soul works through my throat, I can see why there's this mirroring aspect of being heard is so important to my mission and purpose. And even though when I express my truths and or tell my children things and I feel like I'm saying it over and over and over again, I eventually get a little bit emotional, but I'm human. I don't expect to be perfect. I just get to know what my triggers are and own those pieces so I can work with them better. So that was my share today. So are you taking the bait? Ask yourself when something comes up in your mind, Am I being baited?